She turned to Jonah's mother. "How are you today, Gertie? Eli?" "Good, donkey," they said together, each nodding. "Do you want some pie?" Buddy asked. "She's too full," Prudy said. "Prudy?" The warning came from her mother. Sarah was careful not to let her gaze stray to Jonah. "Danke, Buddy, but Prudy's right. I have already eaten way too much." The young girl gave a self-satisfied smile, then plopped down between her oldest brothers. There were two more Miller boys, Aaron, who was about to marry Mary Ebersole, and Jonathan, who was still running around. The Millers also had a daughter, Hannah, who was Sarah's age. The two were close friends, though Sarah hadn't expected Hannah to come today. She was too busy building her home. A home like Sarah would never have. "Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of the picnic." She turned to walk away, and her gaze wandered toward Jonah. She couldn't help it. Despite her vow to forget him, she was just so aware of his every move, his every breath. He looked heartbroken, sad, and her heart went out to him. He had taken his breakup with Lorie badly. He smiled at Prudy. It was the only time his face relaxed and his eyes lit up. It shouldn't be that way. She couldn't believe it was God's will for him to be so unhappy, and she said a small prayer that one day he would heal and find that happiness he deserved. "She's pretty." Jonah tore his gaze from Sarah's departing back and settled it on his brother. Until Buddy had spoken, Jonah hadn't realized he'd been staring, watching Sarah walk away. "You think so?" He'd never given the matter much thought. He supposed that Sarah Yoder was attractive enough, with her dark brown hair and crystal blue eyes. "Yeah." Buddy smiled in a dreamy sort of way. Jonah lightly pinched him on the arm. "I think somebody has a crush on somebody." Deep rose flushed Buddy's cheeks. "No." But Jonah could tell. Not that anything could ever come of it. He had heard his parents talk too many times when they thought no one was listening. Mom and Dot weren't even sure if Buddy would ever leave the farm, much less find a love of his own. It was sad, really, given the size of his heart and his kind nature. If they stayed with tradition, Jonathan would inherit the farm, and most likely the care of Buddy to go along with it. "I think she's pretty," Prudy chimed in. "Does that mean that I have a crush too?" Jonah smiled at his baby sister. At 6, Prudy was definitely a late blessing in their lives. Mom and Dot had thought they wouldn't have any more children after Jonathan was born. Now he was nearing 17, while Prudy was just starting to school. "Maybe," Jonah said. Buddy shook his head. "She's a girl, and a girl can't have a crush on her teacher." "I can too." Prudy stood, her anger shining in her red cheeks. "Shh." Jonah pulled her into his lap. "Of course you can." Meanwhile, Mom soothed Buddy. She caught Jonah's gaze over his brother's shoulder. A helpless light flickered in her eyes, and then it was gone. He knew his parents weren't sure what to do about his brother, but they had to believe that God would show them the way. The good-natured Buddy had grown increasingly irritable over the last couple of months. Jonah had believed at first that the sensitive boy had just been picking up on Jonah's own agitation, but now he was beginning to think otherwise. Maybe Buddy was starting to realize the differences between them all. If that was the case, Jonah wasn't sure what to do either, except to be there for him and pray daily. Calmer now, Prudy pushed up from his lap and flounced over to get another piece of pie. Jonah's gaze wandered around the area, taking in who would come to the back-to-school picnic. But his stare settled on Sarah once more. He couldn't pin it down, but there was something different about her. Something he couldn't name. "She is pretty." His mother's words were low and close by, as if she had moved near when he wasn't looking. "Fancy, but pretty, I suppose." What could he say, really? Was Sarah fancy Amish? He supposed that according to his mother's standards.